Hi, good evening, everyone. Today, we are going to go ahead and we are going to start with optimization. So, we'll go ahead and we'll begin with optimization. And in optimization, what we want to do is both single and multivariable optimization. So, optimization means what? Optimization means that we want to either find maxima or find minima of the function. And when we want to find maxima or minima of the function, there are two things which we want to go ahead and do. First, we want to find out something called as first order condition. I am doing one variable first, and then I'll talk specifically about two variable and what Bayesian matrix is, probably today or tomorrow. Let's see how we go. So we're talking about first order condition. पहले हम इस first order condition के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं. In which we either, when we want to maximize or minimize, we differentiate the function and equate it to 0. This is called my first order condition. Okay. Now, because I am differentiating the function and equating it to 0, first order condition में, it automatically goes ahead and means ये सिर्फ तब possible होगा अगर मेरा function differentiable होगा. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, money in the background, my function must be differentiable. अच्छा, और differentiable के लिए minimum चीज क्या चाहिए था? अगर differentiable है, it must be that the function definitely is continuous. It must be that the function definitely has existence of limit. तो ये सब रहा होगा. Limit must have existed, function must have been continuous, function must have been differentiable. That is why I'm able to differentiate the function and equate it to 0. That's the reason why with substitute goods, why with complementary goods, why with max utility function, उसमें हम फर्स्ट ऑर्डर कंडीशन नहीं निकालते. ये हम फर्स्ट ऑर्डर कंडीशन सिर्फ कॉपडॉगलस में निकालते हैं. Why? Because we understand that we have to have a continuous indifference curve which is also differentiable. अब जब हम अपना कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री गुड्स का बात करते हैं, इट्स अ min फंक्शन, इसमें किंक आ जाता है. दे आर नॉट डिफरेंशिएबल. When we talk about max functions, these are not differentiable. So basically the first order condition requires, क्योंकि मैं differentiate करके equate to 0 कर रही हूँ, so it requires that the function must be differentiable. Secondly, ये तो first चीज हो गया. Secondly, I require that the second order derivative can be, it can have different things. It can be less than 0, equal to 0, or more than 0. Now, if it is less than 0, you achieve a maximum of the function. If it is more than 0, you achieve a minimum of the function. And if it is equal to 0, then it's inconclusive. Maximum और minimum के बारे में हम बात नहीं कर सकते. So, here, because I am checking the second order condition, मैं double differentiate कर रही हूँ. So it means that the second order derivative should exist. So that's the second thing which I require, that the function should be not only once differentiable, but twice differentiable. सिर्फ एक बारी नहीं, function दो बारी differentiable होना चाहिए. The function should be differentiable twice, right? So this is the first thing which we require कि maxima, minima, ये सब तो बात का बात है, right? But basically, we need that the function should be twice differentiable. Okay? Then there are some terms which you must know. So, one such thing which can be asked in exam is called as an inflection point, right? And one another thing which can be asked in exam, that's called as a stationary point. अच्छा, before we proceed, ये बात समझना that whenever you have maxima of the function, that is, you can resonate that with concavity. Double order derivative negative माने concavity, and double order derivative positive माने convexity. ठीक है? Now there is something called as an inflection point and something called as a stationary point. जब हम stationary point के बारे में बात करते हैं, when we talk about stationary point, then we can say x dot or x naught is a stationary point if when I find the first order derivative of the function at that point, I get 0. So if it happens कि जब हमने first order derivative निकाला and वो 0 आ जाए, right, then it is a stationary point. अब whether it will be maxima, minima or nothing does not matter. अभी के लिए सिर्फ इतना मैटर कर रहा है that a stationary point is any point such that the first order derivative is equal to 0. ठीक है? Now there is something which is known as an inflection point. Inflection point usually, और ये आपको दिखता है when we talk about the cost functions, right? जब हम total cost function के बारे में बात करते हैं, that is where we go ahead and we look at an inflection point. अच्छा, एक और चीज है, before I move, we can just write here saddle point, right? अब हम बात करते हैं inflection point का. So inflection point is any point where your curve changes the curvature. ठीक है? Where the curvature of the function changes. Where curvature of the function changes. माने, so if you draw cost curve, you will notice that the curvature of the function is changing, right? But when we draw the revenue curve, total revenue curve of a monopoly, the curvature of the function is changing. So whether you go from concave to convex or convex to concave, in between that point where you're changing the curvature, right, that is basically called your inflection point, right? Change in curvature is called as your inflection point, right? So we can say, some books say that the concavity of the function changes at x naught, then that is an inflection point. Okay. Now, we also have something which is called as a saddle point. So what is a saddle point? A saddle point is that stationary point in a multivariate function that is neither maxima nor minima. माने फर्स्ट ऑर्डर डेरिवेटिव तो इक्वल टू 0 आया है, but it is neither local maxima nor local minima. So a stationary point neither local maxima nor local minima. If that happens, then that becomes your saddle point. ये दो तीन कुछ definitions हैं. They can be asked to find. हम एक एक क्वेश्चन करेंगे how to find them. But you can also be asked as point of match the following or as point of MCQ. कैसे भी आ सकते हैं. So it is important that you also remember the definitions of these questions well. ठीक है. Now, So as I said, we will go ahead and we will begin by talking about the single variable function, and then we will move on to the multivariable function. So write down the first question. Maximize fx is equal to x to the power 4 minus 4x to the power 3 on R naught. Do it. A, it is maximum at x equal to 3. B, at x equal to 0. C, no maxima. D, at x equal to positive infinity. Okay, how about this? Yes, you have a query? ठीक है, तो देख लेते हैं. So f dash x is equal to 4x cube minus 12x square equated to 0. Minus 12x square equal to 0 means I can take this here. अच्छा, एक चीज है यहाँ पे. हाँ, this many of you make a mistake. You simply cancel x's. मतलब what you will do is, ये बहुत गलत है, that if you will write this as 12x square, you just cancel x's and make x here and x equal to 3. Wrong. Very incorrect. It is not this. If I would have taken x square common, I would have got 4x minus 12 equal to 0. The product of two things is 0. दो चीजों को मल्टीप्लाई करके 0 कब आता है? When one of them is 0. दोनों में से कोई एक 0 होना चाहिए. So it means either x square is 0 or x is equal to 3. Both of them are fine. You have to check at both. सिर्फ x equal to 3 पे चेक नहीं करना है. It will be incorrect. X can also take the value 0. Very basic, but I hope all of you know this, but I'm just reiterating. Ab double order derivative. This is my first order derivative. So 4 into 3, 12x square minus 24x. Now check at 3 and 0. So 0 I get 0 and 3 into 3, 9 into 12, 108 minus 24 into 3. Positive. So this is minima and this is inconclusive. So all of you are right. Acha, now this is fine. But कैन यू टेल मी एग्जैक्टली व्हाई देयर इज नो मैक्सिमा? माने ग्राफ में क्या ऐसा रहा होगा कि देयर इज नो मैक्सिमा? व्हाई देयर इज नो मैक्सिमा? कोई अगर पूछे कि इसमें मैक्सिमा क्यों नहीं आ रहा, व्हाई नो मैक्सिमा? हॉरिजॉन्टल ग्राफ, ओके। एनीवन एल्स? व्हाई ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? इस फंक्शन में मैक्सिमा क्यों नहीं है? राइट डाउन। द फंक्शन doesn't have any maxima because it is unbounded. Because it is unbounded. माने what we are saying is कि देखो यहां पर x to the power 4 है और ये x to the power 3 into 4 है. So for large x's, जैसे जैसे हम x का ज्यादा ज्यादा वैल्यू लेंगे फॉर लार्ज एक्सेस, clearly x to the power 4 will exceed 4x cube. माने just take an example. Suppose मेरा x जो है वो 10 है. Suppose clearly 10 to the power 4 ये हो गया बेटा 10000 एंड 4x क्यूब हो गया 4 इंटू 10 to the power 3, 4 इंटू 1000 माने 4000. अभी तो मैंने कुछ x लिया ही नहीं है. आई हैव टेकन अ वेरी स्मॉल एक्स. अभी तो मैंने एक्स को सिर्फ 10 लिया है और मेरा इसका जो आंसर आएगा इट विल बी 10,000 माइनस 4,000, 6,000. बट एज आई इंक्रीज एक्स, जैसे जैसे मैं ये एक्स बढ़ाती जाऊंगी, व्हेन आई इंक्रीज दिस एक्स टू 100, व्हेन आई इंक्रीज दिस एक्स टू 1000, तो इनके बीच का गैप विल कंटिन्यूअसली इंक्रीज, एक्स टू द पावर 4 एंड 4x क्यूब का. माने इस फंक्शन का वॉट एवर वैल्यू आई विल बी गेटिंग, इट विल बी बिगर एंड बिगर एंड बिगर. एंड व्हेन x विल गो टूवर्ड्स इंफिनिटी, तो ये फंक्शन का वैल्यू भी इनफाइनाइट होगा. बहुत बड़ा गैप होगा. द आंसर ऑफ दिस विल बी वेरी ह्यूज, बट वी डोंट नो व्हाट दैट नंबर इज. सो सिंस दिस फंक्शन इज अनबाउंडेड, माने जब हम इसमें अलग अलग x डालते हैं द वैल्यू इज कंटिन्यूअसली इंक्रीजिंग बट देयर इज नो बाउंड, कोई अपर लिमिट नहीं है. तो देयरफॉर देयर इज नो मैक्सिमम, देयर इज नो बाउंडेडनेस ऑन दिस फंक्शन. नाउ टेल मी समथिंग. If I make this function bounded, माने suppose they would have gone ahead and said कि this is your function defined for all x between -4 to 4. तो अब I have an upper bound कि x 4 से ऊपर नहीं जा सकता. X cannot take the value more than 4. So then I can check at those extremes कि उन extreme points पे क्या हो रहा है. But here since the function is unbounded, जैसे जैसे x बढ़ाए जा रहे हो फंक्शन का वैल्यू बढ़ता जा रहा है. Right? So no maxima for the function. Is it clear? No, it cannot be b. That's the beauty. The value of the function should be some number. If I don't have a number, I cannot say maximize infinity. That's no answer. So you need some number for it. That is why this is incorrect. Okay. Okay, so next question. If we are not able to find a minima, then what is the case? Then no maxima, no minima. That's okay. It may happen कि the function is suppose this is my function. Suppose I say, बहुत simple सा example लेते हैं. Let's say my function fx is simply x. And I tell x is defined for all real values. माने I don't give you a limit. So fx equal to x is just a 45-degree line like this. Now for this there is no maximum value, no minimum value. Neither exist. कुछ भी exist नहीं करता. जैसे जैसे x बढ़ता जाएगा वैल्यू बढ़ता जाएगा, जैसे जैसे x कम होता जाएगा वैल्यू कम होता जाएगा. बट आई कैन नॉट टेल यू व्हाट्स द हाईएस्ट वैल्यू और व्हाट्स द लोएस्ट वैल्यू. If minima does not exist, it does not exist. Maxima does not exist, it does not exist. Is it clear? Okay. So now I'll give you an interval based question. So let's say your function is x minus 2 whole square plus 1 upon x plus 1, and x is defined over 0 to 4. Then the minimum, you have to tell me the minimum value of the function. Hello, hello everyone. Hanji, so what will be the answer? Solve this. What answer are we getting? क्या मिल रहा है यहाँ पे आंसर आगे? कौन सा x है जो सॉल्व करेगा इसको? All of you know how to solve cubic functions? Yes, no. ठीक है, so go ahead, tell me. Which x will solve this? Factorize it, karo factorize. Give me the values of x. Okay. Okay. Whatever answer you're getting, if it's root 2, then root 2. Because I haven't solved it further. So I'll give you the steps. Number 1, you factorize this. You get some x's, right? Number 2, you check the value of the function. At x equal to 0 and x equal to 4, extreme. And add these x's. Right? Wherever it is minimum, that's your answer. Right? So that is how you can go ahead and you can solve this question. I think I should have created a bit easier one, जहाँ पे factorization थोड़ा आसान होता. But usually you'll be given factorization which will not be very, very difficult. Right? माने यहाँ पे you will have to think about which x really goes ahead and solves this equation. But otherwise it is usually not that difficult. बहुत easily identify हो पाता है कि x equal to 1 solves or x equal to 2 solves. Right? If there is still any doubt, you go ahead and you let me know in the group, huh? You can double differentiate, but that will only check whether it's a maxima or minima, right? But you still have to go ahead and find those x's. And अच्छा, so all of you know how to find those x's, right? So how do you find that? बेटा एक बारी देख लो. You can take 2 common और यहाँ पे आ जाएगा x cube minus 6/2 x minus 5/2 equal to 0. ठीक है, तो यूजुअली क्या होता है, वट एवर इज योर कॉन्स्टेंट यू ट्राई टू चेक एट दैट. तो जैसे कॉन्स्टेंट इज 5/2, माना आई विल चेक एट प्लस माइनस 5/2. एंड क्योंकि 5/2 इज नथिंग बट 5/2 into 1, तो यू कैन चेक एट प्लस माइनस 1. एंड यू कैन चेक एट दिस मेन फैक्टर, माना यू कैन चेक एट प्लस माइनस 5. तो इन एक्सेस पे यू विल चेक द वैल्यू दैट इफ एट ऑल कहीं पे ये 0 हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. So at these x's, you will check whether anywhere it is becoming 0 or not. And if it is not becoming 0, कहीं पे भी जितने ये जो भी हमने x's यहाँ लिखे हैं, अगर कहीं पे भी 0 नहीं हो रहा, so you will simply go ahead and say that it cannot be factorized, right? So no such x exist, no such x exist, and then there is no stationary point. That's the answer. So you have to first learn how to factorize. माने इतनी देर में तो अभी तक आपको factorize कर लेना चाहिए था. To factorize, you look at the constant. आप इस constant के पहले factors create करते हो. So if it is -5, it is -5 into 1, 5 into -1. And if I take 2 common, then I get additional. इसको I can rewrite this equation as -5/2. So plus -5/2. So only at these 6 x's, I will check this equation. And I will see कि कहीं पे ये 0 हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. I don't know really how you got √2. √2 यहाँ पे नहीं आएगा. Rational factor हमें देखना है बेटा. I think there will be either one of these as rational roots or no rational root. तो you will check at these. और अगर इनमें से एक पे भी 0 नहीं हो रहा, so you simply say no maximum or minima exists. ठीक है? And another thing you can do here. If you understand, I hope ये first part clear हो गया. Now, if you look at a function, suppose मैं एक function को देख रही हूँ, and I identify that that function is strictly increasing function. अगर मैं ये पता कर पाऊँ कि ये function strictly increasing है, in whatever interval is given to me. Suppose ये function ऐसा कुछ बनता है, it's increasing function. तो it means कि at the less x it will have the least value, and at the highest x it will have the highest value. Then also I am sure कि ठीक है, at x equal to 4, this function will have the highest value. Similarly, for example, if I know that this function is a strictly decreasing function, suppose एक ऐसा function दिया हुआ है जो strictly decreasing function है in some interval, ठीक है? Again, suppose यहाँ पे interval मुझे कुछ दिया हुआ है a to b, and I know that this function is strictly decreasing उस interval में. Again, I can say कि ठीक है, a पे उसका highest value रहा होगा and b पे उसका lowest value रहा होगा. So sometimes you don't even have to factorize. आपको ये सब करने का जरूरत नहीं है. You look at the properties of the function. If the function is strictly increasing or strictly decreasing, तो then also you can use the, अगर strictly increasing है in a to b, in the space a to b, if it is strictly increasing, तो b पे it will have maxima and a पे it will have minima. And in a to b अगर ये strictly decreasing है, तो in b it will have minima and a पे it will have maxima. So sometimes you don't have to factorize, you don't have to do anything with the function. बस देख लो कि क्या function increasing है या decreasing है या नहीं है. And what's the property? कैसे check हो सकता है कि function increasing या decreasing है या नहीं है? So increasing means that when you find f dash x, it is greater than 0. The function is increasing. And decreasing का क्या मतलब होगा? Decreasing would mean that when you find f dash x, the function is less than 0. So if the function is strictly increasing or strictly decreasing, then also I can go ahead and I can answer those questions. I'll give you an example. जैसे, let's say I give you the function, बहुत basic ले रही हूँ, fx is equal to x square in the interval 0 to 10, both included. अब this fx is equal to x square मुझे पता है this is a parabola. And when I go ahead and when I plot this, ये ऐसे बनता है. Okay, let me make it first this and then I draw the axis. This is like this. Fx is equal to x square. But I am told that the interval is 0 to 10. माना I am told कि interval है 0 से लेके 10 तक. So I know that in the interval 0 to 10, this part will not exist. मैं सिर्फ 0 से 10 की बात कर रही हूँ. And in 0 to 10, the function is increasing. So it means that at 0, the function should have a minima, and at 10, the function should have maxima. So in this case, I don't really have to solve. By looking at the property of the function, I will know whether there will be maxima or minimum. Is it clear? So sometimes this property may turn out useful for you. Okay, so अब ये question I leave it to you to check.